Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a live recording of a 50-minute full body flexibility practice. I do use a little cushion for my knees and my bolster as well. Find some space to move for sure, and let's get started. Oh, the dogs are just out for a walk right now, and I'm assuming they're gonna come running in when they get home. So see how that goes. But let's start laying down. And if you want to lay on something, feel free to do so. If you want to make a diamond shape with your leg. Oh, if you want to bring your arms out wide. Maybe turning your palms to face up. Maybe give your fingers a little wiggle as you spread them out wide, stretching through the palms, the hands a little bit. Eventually letting your eyes close if they haven't already. And then let's take a slow, deep breath in and out. Do that again. A nice, slow, deep breath in and out. One more time. Fill your body up with as much air as you possibly can. And then just let it all go. You feel like you need to move around a little more, make some adjustments, go for it. And if you feel like you're ready to find some stillness, maybe you can be still. Allow your day to slow down. Let go or maybe forget what you have to do later. Noticing your breath. Maybe you are able to hear it, feel it. Gonna stay here just a little bit longer. If you wanted to move your arms out even wider, or even reach them all the way above your head, maybe you can continue to let your palms face up. Maybe your hands can rest on the ground wherever you place them. Maybe you feel your shoulders a little bit more. If you did move your arms above your head, take a slower, deeper breath in. And let the exhale help you slide them back all the way to your sides, maybe even closer than where they were before. You might start to wiggle your fingers and your toes again. Maybe spread your fingers wide at the same time, just trying to stretch the palms a little. You might begin to move your legs a little bit more too, eventually bringing your knees together, planting your feet on the ground. You might even snug your arms in a little closer to your sides. Maybe take your palms and turn them to face down. Maybe slide them underneath your hips or your glutes for a second or a moment. If it feels okay to sway the knees side to side, and if you're still on a pillow, you can add in that movement. And then if you are laying on a pillow right now, we will be taking it out and you can slide it off to the side. We'll lay flat on our backs for a few moments. You can keep your feet on the ground or you can hug your knees to your chest. Maybe adding a little bit of a sway side to side. If you're holding onto your knees, you could keep them together. Or you could bring them wider, maybe letting the big toes stay together though, your reclined child's pose. Trying to keep your low back connected to the ground, and you might still be swaying a little bit side to side. Or you might be still. But if you did bring your knees out wide, just start to bring them back a little closer together, all the way together again. And we are going to be turning over, coming into tabletop onto our hands and knees. So either roll to one side or rock yourself forwards. But let's make our way over. Once you get there, maybe a sway of the hips side to side. Then we are going to be bringing our knees, both of them, towards the left side of our mat. Coming down onto our right hip and maybe stacking our legs a little bit better, somewhat. We're going to start to turn our chest forwards though, just kind of leaving our legs where they are. So spread your hands out a little wider. You might be lifted onto the fingertips, just trying to twist a little bit here. Turning the chest forward, trying to level the shoulders with one another as best you can. Maybe pushing the ground away. Now, if you feel good here, we're going to keep our chest lifted. So pushing the ground away. You could go a little further if you want to move your hands towards the right side. A little more, lifting the chest, pushing the ground away, leaving your legs where they are. And if you did go a little further, just start to walk your hands back. Maybe take a moment there. Lift the chest again, push the ground away. And then you can start to plant your hands in a way that will allow you to lift your hips back up and come into your tabletop again. So take your time, find your tabletop, maybe a gentle sway of the hips side to side. Our knees, though, are going to go all the way over towards the right side. The left hip's going to come down. You might stack your legs a little bit more once you do come onto that left hip, though. Bring some space between your hands. Maybe you're on your fingertips. Try to level the shoulders. Lift the chest. Feel a little twist through the core. Stay here if you're good, if you want, or you feel like you could turn the chest just a touch more to that left side, maybe move the hands, maybe push into the ground a little more. Lift the chest. Take a breath. And if you did go a touch further, come back, level things out. And then just planting your hands in a way that will allow you to lift your hips up and come back into your tabletop. Maybe taking a sway through the hips side to side. Maybe even the shoulders are moving a little bit here. We are going to be setting up for our first lunge, the right foot forwards. So if you do want to add a cushion under your knee, maybe that is you rolling your mat over. Maybe you're on some nice soft carpet and you don't think you need anything. Doesn't matter. So we're going to start though with a shorter stance. So maybe our hips are over top of our back knee to start. So we're going to be a little bit far from the ground and we're going to keep our chest lifted. So kind of 90-ish degrees with our legs. So a little less for the hip right now. Think finding your balance. You can definitely have your hands on the ground if you want to. We will be going there later though. If you want to take a little bit of a twist for this first lunge, maybe we'll start to turn our chest towards the right side just a little bit. So the left hand could find the knee, the right hand could find the hip. This can be a little twist. Maybe it's a little bit of a balance posture too. Not here long. Just one breath. And then you can start to turn the chest forwards again if you did twist a little bit. Now, if you are good to bring your hands down and kind of keep your legs here, you definitely can. But if you want to get more into that left hip, you might scooch or slide your right foot forwards to come into a deeper lunge. So sinking the hips forwards and down, and we can keep our hands on the ground. You might be resting on the top of your back foot. Take a moment to try to soften through your hips. We're trying to lengthen through our left hip right now. And now we are going to be here for just a little bit of time. You can stay with your hands on the ground. You could lift your chest back up, trying to keep the hips sinking forwards and down. Maybe your hands rest on your knee. Letting your shoulders fall away from your ears. And then if you wanted to move just a little more through the upper body, we can take our left arm, if it's free to move, and you might reach it forwards, and you might reach it up, and you might spread your fingers wide and point them straight up above you. And then maybe soften into those hips a touch more. You might even take a peek up above you as well. Now, if you are reaching up or if you've got your chest lifted, let's take one more inhale. And then let the exhale bring your hands to the ground again. We can send our hips back a little bit. Find some length through the front leg. Let that stretch of the hip go. Maybe push your foot down into the ground. Maybe drop your chest towards your knee, a little half split. Maybe point your toes up for a moment. Notice what that changes, what you feel through that right leg. Continue to forget about that left hip. And then you can bend back into your front knee a little bit, just so that we can come back into our tabletop as gracefully as we can. You might take a little bit of a sway through the hips, side to side. Soften through the legs as best you can. Now we're going to be switching sides. So if you do find the cushion of some kind useful for your back knee, you can add it in. You can start to bring your left foot forwards. If you need your hands on the ground to set up, you can. But thinking less about the hips right now, more lifting up through the chest, maybe our 90-ish degree angles with our legs. Find just a touch of balance here. Maybe you do feel your hip. That's great too. But if you want to take just a little bit of a twist, turn your chest towards the left. Maybe your right hand finds your knee. Maybe your left hand finds your hip. And then just using an inhale to come back forwards. If you want to adjust your lunge, your distance maybe between your front foot and your back knee. Maybe you're scooching things forwards, sending your hips forwards. Hands can find the ground. Chest can lower towards the knee. Maybe checking in with that back foot. Maybe you're resting on the top of it. And just giving your right hip now a chance to lengthen, open up. You want to stay with your hands on the ground, you can definitely do so. If you want to begin to lift the chest, you can lift at any time. Maybe your hands find your knee. As best you can, continue to sink the hips forwards and down. Find your breath. Now, if the right hand and arm is available and wants to move, you might be reaching it forwards, you might be reaching it up, you might be spreading the fingers wide, and you might be looking up too, if you can keep the balance. All the while sinking into the hip. Now, if you are reaching up or have the chest lifted, take one more inhale. Let the exhale slowly bring your hands down, your chest down. You can begin to lengthen through the left leg now, your little half split. Maybe a moment to push the foot into the ground. Maybe drop the chest towards the knee if you need a little more. And then maybe you will point your toes up. You can start to bend into your front knee again. Plant your hands and do what you gotta do to come back into your tabletop, onto your hands and knees. If you do have a cushion under your knee, you could slide it to the side unless you'd like to keep it. but maybe taking a sway through the hips side to side. Then we are going to be reaching our arms forwards, both of them. If you want your pillow close by, maybe under your forehead, maybe under your chest, for your puppy dog stretch, you can add something in. Maybe walk the fingertips further away from you. Try to take the bend out of your elbows, a nice big reach forwards, and then slowly lower down. You might be resting on your forehead. You might be resting on your chest and your chin. Maybe letting your eyes close. Let gravity pull your chest down. Okay, for one more breath. Letting an inhale bring you back up slowly. Walk your hands under your shoulders. Back to your tabletop, maybe taking a sway, shoulder wiggle. Now we're going to be doing one more lunge, not quite as long this time, but if you do want to add a cushion for your knee, left knee, our right foot will be coming forwards. You can keep your foot in the middle of your mat, or you can heel toe it off to the right side for a lizard lunge. Hands under the shoulders, maybe we'll keep our chest low this time. Sinking the hips forward, sinking the hips down. If you are in lizard, you might be coming down onto your forearms. Just one more breath though on this side. If you're on your forearm, you can climb back to your hands. If you did bring your foot to the outside of your mat, heel toe it back in. Maybe a breath in a lunge. And then push back, slide back, find your tabletop. A little bit of a sway through the hips. Switching sides when you are ready to do so. Maybe moving your cushion under your right knee, left foot coming forwards. A nice lunge. Foot can stay in the middle of your mat if you want it to, or heel toe it off to the left. Hands under the shoulders, sinking into the hips. And maybe if you're in lizard, you'll lower the chest a touch more, but maybe not. Awesome, you guys. Just another breath on this side. Finding your hands if you're not already on them. Bringing your foot back to the middle of your mat if it's off to the side. Maybe an extra moment in your lunge. And then you can find your tabletop again. Maybe a sway of the hips, shake it out a little bit. So we're going to be moving into a side stretch, either from tabletop puppy dog side stretch, or If you want to take child's pose legs, you can bring the knees out wide, send the hips back towards the heels. But either way, we're going to reach our arms forwards and then off to the left side first. Maybe walking the fingertips away to lengthen through the arms as much as you can. If you're going for the child's pose legs, think bringing the hips towards the heels. And if you're coming from tabletop, just keep your hips lifted. Walk your hands to the left. Let your chest get heavy. Feel that side stretch through the right side of your body, that right arm, maybe walking the fingertips a little further away if needed. Stay for one more breath. And then let an inhale lift you. Look towards your hands maybe. Walk them back to the middle of your mat. If you're in the child's pose, legs maybe push, send your heels or your hips back towards your heels again. And then we can all walk our hands off towards the right side. Walk the fingertips away. Try to lengthen through the left side of your body. One last breath here. Using an inhale to lift. Bring your hands back to the middle of your mat. If you are sending your hips back to your heels right now, you can start to lift them again. Bring your knees. Let's all meet in tabletop for a moment. We are going to sit down. So you can cross your ankles, bring your legs out in front of you. If you'd like to give your knees a little bit of a hug, a little bit of a squeeze, maybe take a rock side to side. And then our right leg is going to go out long. If you have a strap and you want to add it to your foot, you can do so. The left foot will come to the inner leg. If you happen to be using a hand towel today, you could also make that into a little bit of a strap if you want to roll it up. But point your right toes up. Lengthen through your spine. Maybe you will stay sitting tall. Maybe you will be folding forward. Feel the length through the leg. We're just gonna stay for another breath. You're folding forwards. Use an inhale to lift again. We're gonna take our left knee, just lift it up. Plant your foot. We're gonna start to pivot, turn onto our right side. So moving into a quad stretch. Right leg on the bottom, left leg on the top, where we can reach back for the foot and hug the heel towards the glute. Now you can stay on your right side, maybe on your forearm, maybe you're laying down. If you want to tip back over so that you're seated again, and use the floor to keep the heel on the close to the glute, just to the outside of it, you can come back to seated. Now you might be leaning back. You might bend your right leg. Be somewhere where you're just hugging your heel towards your glutes, feeling the quad a little, the hip maybe. And then depending on where you are right now, we're going to be coming back to seated and with our legs, both of them in front of us. So whether that will be some long legs and a little bit of a shake, maybe you're going to give your knees a hug, a rock side to side. Our left leg will be making its way out long though. And our right foot can find the inner thigh, maybe using your strap, your towel on your foot, maybe pointing your toes up without using anything to help lengthen your spine though. And maybe just stay here. If it feels good on your back, on your whole body to tip forwards, you can tip forward. And use our next inhale to lift again if you're folding. Maybe starting to move your right leg first. Lift the knee, kind of plant the foot. Gonna get ready to tip over onto the left side. You can get really comfy here. Rest your head in your hand if you want to. You can stay on the forearm, or you can try to come back to seated. Bringing your heel to your glutes. And then relaxing the rest of your body. Now, depending on where you are right now, we're going to start to come back to seated with both of our legs in front. And whether you want your legs to be out long for a moment or give the knees a hug, a little bit of movement, shake it out a little if you want to. We're going to be laying down on our backs though. Again, so when you're ready to come down, find your way onto your back. And then once you're there, of course, always take a moment, maybe a sway of the knees side to side. Now we're going to be twisting, but I want you just to move your hips a little bit to the right side of your mat. So plant your feet, lift the hips a touch, and just move them to the right side of your mat as best you can. So you're kind of crooked right now. But then as you let your knees fall over towards the left, you'll feel a little less crooked once you're in the twist. You can stack your legs on top of one another. You could wrap your top leg around the bottom leg. If you need to adjust your shoulders a little bit, try to level them out with one another. Maybe reaching the arms out wide. Find a twist that feels good for you, your back, your legs. Letting your eyes close if they're still open. Enjoy a few breaths here. I'm going to take just a few more moments here. If it feels good, to bring your hands behind your head, a little bit of a pillow. Might feel your shoulders a little bit. An option to move your arm. Still trying to level the shoulders. If you did, bring your hands behind your head. You might take them out. We can use a nice deep inhale to lift our legs back up. Now, since we did move our hips a little bit off to the right side, you might have to scooch them back to the middle of your mat. Just re-center yourself. Just notice how you feel. Maybe a little bit of a sway, a little bit of movement. And then we're going to try to move our hips towards the left side of our mat. So it could be a micro movement. It could be like half a foot or full. Let the hips go so you're crooked, and then as your knees tip to the right, maybe feel a little less crooked, a little more twist. Decide what you would like to do with your legs. If you want to stack them, cross them. Scooch the shoulders a little bit. Close your eyes. And just feel your breath. The last few moments on this side, maybe you're going to bring your hands behind your head, a little pillow. If you did bring your hands behind your head, you can start to bring them out. And then you might use a big inhale to lift your legs up again and just recenter your hips. You can either keep your feet on the ground or hug your knees to your chest. Maybe adding a sway side to side, or just be still. If you wanted to bring your knees out wide, maybe let the big toes stay together, your reclined child's pose. And maybe you will take this further into happy baby, reaching for your feet if you have room. Trying to bring your low back to the ground if it's lifting on you. If you're holding onto your feet a little bit here in your happy baby, you might add your sways in. Maybe you still are swaying. But if you kind of rock side to side, you might be able to find a little bit more length through the legs. Maybe one leg at a time as you kind of rock to the left. Maybe that leg straightens a little more. As you rock to the right, maybe that leg straightens. And maybe not. Just something to do if you're feeling a little long, a little tall today through the leg. You do have your feet up in the air though. We're going to start to bring them back down. Take your time. Maybe the big toes just come back together first. Maybe you keep the feet lifted, but bring the knees together too. And then eventually the feet can come all the way down to the ground. And once they're there, maybe you'll just keep your knees bent for a moment. Maybe you'll bring your hands back behind your head and lift your chin towards your collarbone to bring some length into the back of the neck. Then maybe one leg at a time, you'll send them out long, feet out wide. Let your head get a little heavier in your hand. Maybe feel the gentle pull of the hairs on your head. And then gently place your head back down. Maybe still fully feeling the nice pull as you let your hands come out. And your arms can fall to the ground beside you, maybe your palms facing up. And maybe settling right into Shavasana. Continue to just notice your breath and slow down your day. As we begin to move again, you might slowly roll your head over to one side and bring it back and all the way to the other side. As you bring your head back up, you might add in a deep breath. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe another deep breath as you reach your arms above your head for a big stretch. Maybe bending your knees before you roll over to one side. And finding your way up to a comfy seat when you're ready. Maybe bringing your hands together. Awesome practice, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a really great weekend. I'll see you guys soon. Namaste.